Hello everyone, I'm Antom64.
I'm the Flameclaw.
And I'm Richie.
And welcome to the HellfireComms playthrough of the SEGA Saturn version of Sonic 3D Blast, aka Sonic 3D Flickies Island. Now, I have played this game before, and we have covered it on the channel. I think a while back I did a stream with Steven, Sonic Movers, and we covered the director's cut of the Mega Drive version, which is, you know, the one I grew up with, sans all the director's cut content, but this one, I never grew up with a Saturn, nor a Sega CD, or a Mega CD, as we'd call it in the UK, so Flame, God bless him, did the work for me, and recorded the footage, so now we're going to check out what I've been missing.
Yes, so there are quite a few differences. You might be wondering, like, why is it a big deal that we're doing a different port of it? But once we get into the gameplay, hell, even right now, this animated cutscene is not a Mega Drive 10 frames per second deal. Like, no, you've got full motion video here. This is like a polished up version with a different look, a different feel, a different sound. It's kind of a big deal, the fact there's a Saturn version here.
It is, yeah. This music I remember from Sonic Generations, actually. So I will start to be able to put a face to the music that I've heard before. What about you, Rich? Did you play the Mega Drive version growing up like me?
So, I don't think so, but actually looking at all of this, I remember playing a version that was on PC. But what actually that version was, I have absolutely no idea, because it was one of those weird bits of my memory where I remember having the disc, and I remember playing it miserably because I was so bad at it and not really getting very far. Right. And that's the extent of my memories with this game. It's quite funny, really.
I do remember having CD on PC. Kind of a catchy way to say that, but yeah, playing with a keyboard was not great, at least for me back in the day. And do we really even need to do a blow-by-blow commentary for this? It's Sonic 3D Blast. It's isometric, not full 3D, so I don't want to hear any shit about it being the first 3D Sonic game in the comments. Thank you very much.
Hey, I will argue that just to be a little bitch, even though you're right, but what you're talking about there, Richie, with the PC version, there was a PC version which is very, very similar to the Saturn version, except it had much worse special stages.
Doesn't surprise me.
Like, if you look at the special stage here, you know, you got the really pretty model, you got the slight translucency effects going on that the Saturn did really well, you got a pretty background. The PC equivalent of this was just like a bland tube in a bland, like, solid colour background. It wasn't great.
Yeah, the Mega Drive version was similarly weird, because it was the closest thing I could describe it to is an endless runner, really. Like, Sonic automatically moves forward. Granted, he's doing that here, but let me expand upon that. There are spike balls on the course, and if you hit them, you lose rings. And if you don't have enough rings by the end, also like this, I'm starting to see more commonalities as I keep talking. You will not get the emerald.
The thing with the Mega Drive special stages is that they're absolute piss easy, like they're a joke, but also I can't hold that against them, because out of every Sonic special stage out there, I would say the Mega Drive ones are the ones with the least bullshit. They're the ones that are least likely to have like a spike ball just the other side of a hill, and they're the ones that are least likely to have like really insanely tight ring requirements, so you know, I'm okay with that.
We're actually covering 2 Sonic games this week, and in regards to spike balls around the corner, well,
yes.
Stay tuned for that on Sunday when we cover Sonic Pocket Adventure. Wow, that is a really nice model of a Chaos Emerald.
It really is.
It looks more like the Master Emerald there, let's be honest.
Well, what is the green Chaos Emerald except a baby Master Emerald?
I don't think that's quite how the lore works, but I get where you're coming from.
That's exactly how the lore works. Anywho, as you saw there, 50 rings gets us into the special stage with either Knuckles or Tails. They are about each and every stage, pretty much, and I don't know what they do with all the rings. Maybe Knuckles is going to finance a second season of his show where he can actually fucking appear for more than 10 minutes at a time.
That's something we should probably bring up early on with how you get into the special stages, because this version works a little bit differently to the Mega Drive one. In the Mega Drive version, you can do this multiple times per act, so you will see Tails and Knuckles showing up. They're both in each section of the level, and you can just sort of plough through them. Whereas in this version, in the Saturn version, you can only get one Chaos Emerald per act. You can still go into another special stage, but instead of getting a Chaos Emerald, I'm pretty sure you get either a life or a continue, like something that's not really worth it. So just focus on getting one per act and then move on, I would say.
Okay, well, there's no Supersonic in this game, sadly. There is in the Director's Cut, which is pretty cool, but you will need all of the emeralds for the proper ending. So get those Flickies, toss them into the ring, stand on the X, and let God do the rest.
Yes, that is the gameplay loop for Flickies Island. There are Flickies inside the enemies. You need to get 5 of them and then take them to the end. That sounds easy, except for the fact that if you get hit by another enemy, your Flickies may well start flying away from you, and you have to go and race them around and get them back. I'll say usually when I try to get no-hit runs down for these LPs, it's just a kind of perfectionism thing. In this playthrough, it's strictly so I'm not wasting like 5 fucking minutes chasing down the ones that got away.
God forbid one of the red ones gets away. They seem to be the most flighty.
Each of the Flickies have slightly different behaviours when they detach from you. I can't remember exactly which ones do which, but the red ones I do remember, the ones that are like, they will just disappear off the face of the earth once you get twatted.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at it here and we can properly appreciate the visual upgrade. This is the part that I think sticks with me more about the Saturn one than the Mega Drive one, because you may well notice as we go through the levels, every level has a checkerboard pattern on the floor. That feels more of a practical consideration than an art style one, because it helps you line up your movement in the isometric plane.
Yeah.
The problem that the Mega Drive one has is because there's no real texture to it, it just makes every level look the same. Whereas here they've actually gone out of their way to update the sprite work, the background work and that. So even though the checkerboards are still there, it's a bit more distinct, and I feel like that's why I have more of a soft spot towards the Saturn version on the whole, because it's like it dresses up what's going on a lot better than the Mega Drive one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The other difference that is also presentation based is the music here. In the Mega Drive version, the music was mostly done by Sonoe, from what I recall, and he's got a very kind of rock-based approach to it, as you know. It's got a little bit of other stuff mixed in, but that's kind of the direction. This is one of Sonic R-Man soundtracks. This is Flickies Shark.
Yes.
And I would say that I know usually when there's 2 different versions of a game that we're covering, we get into a bit of a fight about which one's better. But with the soundtracks here, I'm going to take the controversial opinion that I like both.
Wow.
Fair.
I hope you enjoyed the view up there on that fence of yours. I'm going to say that the Mega Drive version is superior, though there are some decent tracks in this one.
I think they go for a different enough approach that you're not inherently comparing them as much. Because like I said, the Mega Drive one's got a bit more of like a typical Mega Drive rock kind of thing going on. There's a bit of the twang, and that's kind of what they're going with. Whereas this has got, I don't know how you best described it, it's kind of like synthy.
Yeah, I mean, what Wikipedia says, because, you know, source of all knowledge, hardcore techno is sort of is like traditional Sonic music and hardcore techno is the mix that it says that it sounds like.
That makes sense. Techno was kind of big in the UK in the late 90s.
And also, just to sort of point out, with the Genesis version, it was primarily composed by Jun Tsunoi, Tatsuyuki Maeda, and then Masaru Setsumaru and Seiru Okamoto composed the final boss and staff role themes respectively.
You're saying about hardcore techno, I think the hardcore part is best reserved for some of the later stages. It sort of goes from, like, I guess this is more like a synthwave kind of thing, you know, it's the sort of thing that nowadays if this came out, it would be partnered up with like a kind of vaporwave aesthetic.
Or EDM, yeah.
Yeah, like, Whereas this is actually from the era rather than pretending it's from the era, so I guess this is like the actual organic beast here.
Alright, so second zone here, Rusty Ruin. Probably one of my favourites. Can you guess why, Richie?
Because it's green?
Yeah, you got it in one. I'm a very simple being.
I mean, I have to. I'm loving the very chill vibes with this music right now. Like, it's really nice.
I mean, we just killed Charmy Bee in robot form, and we're still vibing.
Well, exactly, and that just makes it worth it.
Killing Charmy Bee is a reason to be vibing in itself.
Oh my god, I can't wait until he shows up in the live-action films. Jesus Christ.
Actually, don't even fucking CGI him. Like, have him as the one Sonic character who is a man in a suit. You know you want to see that.
No, I want Tom Holland to play him, because I just find the idea of that funny.
Oh, God.
Right, I guess I'll give a little bit of trivia here as we go down. Just after they had finished Toy Story on the Mega Drive, which is, I want to say, kind of a notorious licensed game, because it's pretty hard. It's, on the Mega Drive. Sega approached Traveller's Tales, who made both versions of this game, and said, hey, you got a thing, we got a thing, yeah, why don't you do a thing? And they were originally going to call it Sonic Spin Drift. Yeah, that didn't really work out, so they went with 3D Blast, because they wanted to emphasize the 3D and whatnot. And it says here, they believed it was commissioned because Sonic Extreme, the fabled game that never was, that was in development for Saturn at the time, was struggling, and Sega just wanted to bring Sonic into the 3D era of gaming.
Struggling is a very nice way to put it, let's be honest there. This is one of them things that, like, the documentation is a bit all over the place, so I can't really say any of this with, like, full confidence, but, like, the general gist seems to be that they were working on Sonic Extreme as the Saturn's Sonic game to kind of give Sonic some representation there. That fell through because for some reason there was a bit of miscommunication between the development team and Yuji Naka about whether they could use the Knights engine or not.
Oh, Yuji Naka brought problems into development. What a surprise.
I know, like, that one, he has a reputation, but that I can't be entirely sure whether it was him being a dick or whether it was, like, it hadn't been cleared properly and he had his own plans for it. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really want to point fingers without knowing for certain because, like, let's be real, if we want to give Yuji Naka shit, there's enough confirmed stuff to do that with. But, like, yeah, that's basically what was happening. It was like Sonic Extreme fell apart, but naturally they had the Saturn. They kind of wanted some Sonic representation to push the Saturn. Basically what happened is that they already kind of had, like, the idea that they wanted this to be on the Mega Drive, and it's like, well, if we're having them develop it on Mega Drive, we might as well just have them, clean it up a bit, give it a once-over on the visuals, and have something for the Saturn. Something's better than nothing. So this was kind of them sort of stretching the definition of a 3D game just so they can have a 3D Sonic game on the Saturn. It didn't save the Saturn, but they tried.
Well, nothing could really save the Saturn.
No, it was kind of flawed from the beginning, and, less said about the Neptune, the better.
Well, the Neptune wasn't a terrible idea, the fact that they wanted to have a system that could cover, like, games from multiple Sega systems rather than just one, because, like, that was kind of where the struggles for the Mega CD, for the 32X, and then the Saturn came from, and the fact that they were launching these expensive add-ons and then new systems with the bare minimum support, and they'd kind of burnt people by this point that they're like, there was so little trust in Sega. So I think the idea of the Neptune, which, if I recall correctly, that was meant to have support for, like, the Saturn stuff as well as, like, the Mega CD and whatnot. It was definitely going to cover multiple platforms, and so that was, like, an easier thing to sell to people because there was, like, this pre-installed gameless library that they could play.
Right.
Again, the Saturn, its biggest problem was that there were no games, and that was from Sega doing the traditional Sega thing, which they never learned from, where the American branch and the Japanese branch were not talking. So the Japanese branch were putting all their stock into the Saturn. That's what they were working on games for. While the American branch were still sort of tapping their feet with the 32X because they hadn't been told that the Saturn was a thing at that point.
Ooh.
Incredible.
Because Sega, in their infinite wisdom, they were trying to do a thing where, like, they just shadow dropped it. Of, like, they announced the Saturn and then it's like, you can buy it tomorrow. Which sounds like a cool idea, and when it's like digital games these days doing that, it works. But the problem is that even if you're doing that kind of approach, you kind of have to tell your developers about it, otherwise you launch a system with no fucking games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, the first 6 months or so of the Saturn's existence was, like, there were a couple of first-party games and nothing because the third-party developers started working on it when it came out. Sega gonna Sega.
Most definitely.
Sega are going to Sega. Alright. Act 3. This is very much a VHS sort of pattern they're using here. I remember that titles coming soon thing on a lot of my videos.
Basically, yeah, like, you buy a video and you just have to sit through, like, 20 minutes of that. Although, thankfully, you had a fast-forward button which DVDs bypassed.
Wow. I would discuss the bosses in this game at length, but they're all pretty easy for the most part, so I guess we'll see you next time where there will be more easy bosses. Bye for now.